Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you today and Happy New Year. Can I hear a Happy New Year?
Happy New Year.
Good. Shall we pop champagne?
Yes.
I need a drink.
I do too. A Bloody Mary would be good.
Oh, there it is, a Bloody Mary. Okay. Well, I'm Fia Seagraves. I'm the education director. And this lovely lady over here is Helen Myers. She's our operations and our tech person. So she'll be here to make sure everything goes right for our lovely presenter today. And let me tell you a little bit about this fantastic lady. First of all, I'm going to start off by, we're lucky that we live where we live because we get people who get inspired to do special things with what they just automatically have a gift for. And let me introduce you to this lovely lady. You can see she's only 2 years old. There we go. Now we can, yay, move this thing out of the way. But R.D.G. Lover.
Yes.
Now, I love this last name because you know what? Once you view her website, you're going to love her too. Okay? I mean, this is wonderful. Inspired to be an artist and to write. So an author, and you're published.
I'm published.
She's published. She has a very tiny voice.
That's what
I don't need that thing. No. But, she has a wonderful website. And can you tell us your website? How do we find you?
Yes, so I have some cards I can take if you guys would like to take some of those, but it's apocalypsearts.com. But my business is actually with a 4 in front, so it's 4POC Apocalypse.
Okay. Okay. And she has some wonderful items for you to take a look at as well. I am not going to stand up here and tell you all about her because I want to hear her speak. And I want to hear about the wonderful things she does and how Amelia Island has embraced you as an author. Okay. But before, those things that we have come glued to, let's turn them off or put them on vibrate or whatever. Okay. That means me too, right? Yeah. Okay. And you'll also see that there's a survey on the tables around that we'd like you to participate in. You can just drop them in the basket when you finish. The other thing is, just to let you know, we have more events that are coming up. One of those events is called our Gala, and it's called Love Legacy Gala. And if you go to our website, Amelia Island, ameliamuseum.org, you'll find more information about this gala. It's to help raise money to keep this museum going. No, I didn't say that. Don't quote me. But to keep things alive, like these programs going, and let me tell you, we have some great ones coming up. As a matter of fact, in our next one, Third on Third.
No, I want people to see you, my friend.
There you go.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because
Do we want this side of it a little bit?
Let's try to do this. We can.
I'm sorry about that. I'm fighting with the camera. It's not tracking the way it normally does.
It happens.
And now it's not showing the PowerPoint. Okay.
We'll keep working on it.
Okay,
We might have to animate it for you.
that's okay. That'd be fun.
We have some willing participants right in front, right? Okay. But take a look at our website so you can find out more information about our gala. One of our events coming up is called Third on Third. And just to let you know who's going to be speaking is one of our newest board members. Mike, would you raise your hand? That young gentleman right back there that's going to be speaking at our Third on Third. Why do we call it Third on Third? Third Friday of the month on 3rd Street. So hopefully we'll see you as well. Let's give a round of applause for this.
Well, hello. As I was introduced, my name is R.D.G. Lover, and I'm a local author and artist. I'm going to wait till the PowerPoint comes up because I actually kind of outlined everything I was going to say. And so we get to that. Do we have any readers in the crowd at all? Anybody wants to read? 1, 2, 3. Okay. Well, that's nice. What do you guys like to read? Just shout out like a book or a genre. Everything.
Literary fiction.
I love literary fiction. Mysteries, okay. Got any romance ones?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm actually finding myself gravitating back to the books I was assigned to read in high school and college that I may not have read. And I'm into, Moby Dick and, I mean, you name it. I'm going to Jane Eyre and all of it. I'm enjoying them thoroughly.
Yeah, I went back and read some of my high school reads too that I didn't really love in high school. I ended up liking them a lot more in second read through. Okay, so my presentation is how Amelia Island inspires local fiction. The remote is not working. Okay. This is a little bit about me. So my name is Rachel, and I obviously have a pen name, and if you guys aren't familiar with what a pen name is, it's just a fictitious name that authors use to publish their works under. I've grown up visiting Amelia Island, so I'm not originally from here, but I came down every single year since I was a baby, and I had an aunt who lived here that we would visit, and it just became like my home away from home, and I really, really loved it. It was my safe space, and when I turned 21, I ended up moving down here, so now I am a full-time resident of Fernandina Beach. And Amelia Island, just in general, has been a huge source of inspiration. And it's inspired all of my books in different ways. You guys are familiar with Amelia Island. We have a lot of artists and authors here. It is full of inspiration, historically and in present day. And I pull a lot of my inspiration personally from present day, more than I do the historical side. So all of mine are contemporary or futuristic. So this is a little bit about me. I have always been creative, so it's a question I get a lot. I have been drawing ever since I could hold a pencil and paper. And I had a really incredible teacher when I was in high school who taught me how to publish, how to approach the traditional publishing aspect too. And she kind of taught me my basis of my knowledge. And from there, I'm completely self-taught. I didn't go to college. So I did writers' conferences, I did online courses, and a ton of practice. I would draw every day, I would write every day, just because it's what I love doing. And my background with publishing specifically is more of a traditional background. So if you guys are familiar with what traditional publishing is versus self-publishing, traditional publishing is where you query literary agents, and they take you to big publishers like Simon & Schuster or Hachette or Macmillan. And that didn't actually work out for me. But I still ended up published because I knew everything from that line of, studying that I went down. So, all right. So my published titles. I started publishing in 2024. The title that you guys probably are familiar with is the Amelia Island Coloring Book. So that is my book. I made that as kind of like a trial run. I'm not gonna lie. It was my first book out there. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I assumed what better way to start publishing on Amelia Island than make a coloring book for everybody. I also have The Storm in the Sea, which is right over here. This one is a small town second chance romance that's set on Amelia Island. It is contemporary. Wisteria Volume 1 is a multi-genre literary short story and poetry collection. And Inheriting Armageddon is my epic urban fantasy about the full horsemen of the apocalypse, and that one is also set on Amelia Island. Alright, so a little bit more about the coloring book. So when I used to visit when I was young, Center Street was obviously one of the many draws of Amelia Island. We would always go down Center Street, get some ice cream, and just visit all the small shops. I love it down there. It was my favorite place to visit with friends and family. So for this book, I revisited some of my favorite locations. I went down, I got pictures of all the best places. We've got the Pirates in there, we've got Shark's Teeth, we've got the courthouse that's obviously featured on the front. And I kind of wanted to make this more of a interactive coloring book than just something that you open and color. So this one actually has a scavenger hunt prompt. Everything in there is on Center Street. You can go, and then on the left-hand side page in the book, it says place your photo here. So you can go around, find the different spots, take a picture with your friends and family, and then keep it in the book. Thank you. So it's a little bit more of like a scrapbooking sort of thing. I found that I really enjoyed scrapbooking later in my life, so I wanted to kind of share that with everybody. And I also wanted to make it family friendly, so it's got some architecture in it. It's got, you know, courthouse, a church is in there. We've got the Amelia Island Coffee Building, because I think that gallery up top is one of the coolest spots down there. So yeah, it's got a lot of things you'll find on Center Street, that's for sure. All right, the storm and the sea. So this one, I always get a lot of questions about, is this fantasy? Because of the cover. And it's not. They are dressed like pirates because it features Shrimp Fest. So this one is kind of another trial run book that I did where I kind of wanted to try something different. I'm mainly a fantasy author, truly. And this one is just a plain romance, because everybody loves a good beach read. Tourists, locals. And you know, one of the things that I really loved to do with this one specifically was keeping all my favorite locations in the book. So, for example, like the marina, I've always been drawn to the marina. I think it's beautiful out there. And so the marina's on there. Brett's Waterway Cafe is in there. It's not named, but that is a very beautiful restaurant. Wonderful people. They have awesome stuff in there. Boneyard Beach, even though it's not technically Amelia Island, that's one of my favorite kind of like local treasure secret spots. And then Timothy's Seafood Shack, personal favorite restaurant. I love their food. So they are in the book, named in the book because I do love the restaurant, and I'm vegetarian, so I can never find good vegetarian food. They have the best vegetarian food. So I wanted to keep some like spots that everybody was like really familiar with, and then you could read about it and be like, oh my gosh, we have been right here. And yeah, and so the last line there, it says, it includes some of my favorite experiences after having been here, namely hurricane parties and Shrimp Fest. And I had my first hurricane party, I think back in 2022, when we had one of those come through, but it was a lot of fun. Don't know if I recommend it, but. All right, Wisteria Volume 1 is a little bit different from what I usually do. Obviously, I like to write novels, but this one is a short story collection. Everything in here is kind of different. I like to pitch this as a multi-genre collection that's based on the idea that wisteria grows on doorways and creates portals to different worlds. So it's just different worlds that live in my head. But these 4 stories that I put up here specifically are ones that were Florida inspired. There are a couple more in the book, but these ones had some fun stories behind them. So 30 Miles is a story where a woman travels across an apocalyptic Amelia Island in Jacksonville in hopes of reuniting with her lover. So the inspiration behind this one specifically does come from my personal life. I met my now husband down here, and I met him online on a dating app, and I think I had the ratio set to like 20 miles or something. And I was like, if everything went down, you know, we didn't have the internet, didn't have phones, how could you, you know, reunite with people, right? And so this kind of was where this idea was born, where she travels from Amelia Island all the way to Jacksonville. So you see a lot of like, you see American Beach, you see the Danish Point Bridge, just those different spots that like, even if you could drive into Jacksonville, is what you're gonna see. But that was a lot of fun to write, so it does have a lot of like the imagery and the wildness that you see specifically like on Big Talbot Island around Boneyard Beach and the different wildlife. So I really enjoyed writing that one. The Giant Harbor Store, also one of my favorite stories that I've ever written. This is about a man who stumbles into a hardware store full of magical women that have been displaced from an enchanted forest that's been developed. So this is what you would call a cozy fantasy, where they fairy tale characters more or less in a modern setting. So this hardware store has got all these dwarves, none of them are taller than 5 feet, and there's a pizza joint run by a leprechaun. And it just was so much fun to write. And I think a lot of the inspiration from this one too comes from we see so much development here. I'm not a fan of it. I wish they would do somewhere else. But this was it does have a happy ending. So if you do read this book, you'll see where that happy ending comes from. But it was very Florida inspired with the development that happens here. Sally in the interview was another just fun one. This one started as a prompt at a creative writing workshop that I took at Story and Song. And it was just they gave you 3 different prompts that had nothing to do with each other. I think specifically for this one, it was about a woman who was up washing her car at 3 a.m. because she needed a new job. And so from this, I created my character Sally, who is detailing her car in order to take her car to a car shop and land a job as a car detailer. And she became easily one of my favorite characters too. But the inspiration behind this one too was kind of fun because it came from one of my first interviews here in Florida, where I walked in and I got the job on the spot and I didn't know anything about what I was doing. They're just like, do you like doing this? I'm like, I'll try it out. And I'm like, here's your report. So that was kind of where that one came from. And then Stars is a poem. So this one does have kind of like an equal balance of short stories and poetry. And Stars is really, it's probably one of my favorite poems I've written. I wrote it the night I moved here to Florida. I did road trips mostly when I was visiting, and it was like a 16+ hour drive. And this was the first time I actually drove this alone. I stopped in Nashville, Tennessee with one of my friends. And then when I got here, I was staying at my aunt's house, and she lives kind of, out down Black Rock Road, so it's real dark out there. So I get out there, I'm on her dock, and I look up, and it's just the most stars you've ever seen in your life, and it's so beautiful because there's no light pollution like there is in the Midwest. So this poem specifically was written that night and based on that feeling, and it kind of ties in with the next book I'll talk about, which is Inheriting Armageddon. So, Inheriting Armageddon is, again, my epic urban fantasy about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse as karaoke-loving, motorcycle riding hipster assassins. This is the one that kind of my whole heart is in. I worked on this one from 2018 to 2025 and received 100 rejections traditionally, albeit with high praise. So I had 2 full requests from Hachette and Macmillan. But ultimately, again, didn't really turn into anything. But when I was working on this specifically, I was in the process of moving. So I was down here when I finished the novel. And it was always because this was the place that I saw these characters come to life. It was really like in the long drives between the Midwest and the South that I would see them like in the city lights. And just they lived in that in between of moving. And their story that just means so much to me. But the story itself is set in 2107, which is a post-World War III Jacksonville and Nassau County, and it includes Yulee, Fernandina, and Amelia Island. And the setting, again, it pulls in all of the good Spanish moss and the humidity and everything that you know and love about Florida. I don't know if everybody loves that about Florida, but I do. And one of my favorite things about this book too is the setting. It really does kind of coincide with the story. So the marina is in this one as well. You have a character who is a pirate in the story, but in this futuristic setting, pirates are actually mail couriers who are not allowed to do mail deliveries overseas. So she is living at the marina, and there's also, I can't think what it is right now. I think it's the alley, that building that the alley is in right now. That building is in the story as well. And no super huge spoilers or anything, but there is a war that happens at the end of the series that takes place in the city of Jacksonville that I think is pretty cool. But yeah, so that's a little bit about that book. And so what's to come? These are my next projects. Rose Tide and Rust is my second Amelia Island romance novel, and it's kind of based on or inspired by the art galleries and train graffiti around here. So the visual arts. There will be a fictitious art gallery in this one. And then The Well is a horror novel that may or may not include a giant translucent monster shrimp. I am very excited to write that one. And then there's really a lot of other projects, including more mysterious short stories, a book about writing and publishing that will walk you through everything that I do on my side, and then the sequel to Inheriting on the Mountain. But that's all I got. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you. Have you always, you say you've been creative. Is writing something that came out of your art or art out of your writing?
That's a good question. I get that one a lot too. I was always a writer first.
Writer first.
Yes. So I started being really serious about both of them around the same time. So when I started writing my novels, I was like, I would really love to see what this character looks like. So kind of together, I would start drawing them while I was writing about them, but always a writer first.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, that was a very enthusiastic. Okay, so do you create your characters first and then you mold the environment around it, or do you go and you're triggered by something that you see, triggered in a good way or maybe a bad way, and then you inspire, there you go, and then you create the characters to fit in that, specific reality?
I think a little bit of both. So for like Inheriting on the Mountain, the characters were always there first, and the world was kind of built around them. But like the giant in the hardware store, and maybe somebody can like solve this mystery for me. I went into a Lowe's one time, and there's this big roll of something. I assume maybe it was like insulation or something, but it looked like a giant roll of pennies to me. So I was like, what if it was a roll of pennies and there was a giant working in the back? So that's kind of where I saw something for that one.
That's where I live.
Yeah.
In my brain all the time.
Yeah. Yes.
Do you create your jacket covers?
I do. So, along with being a character artist or a digital artist, I do hand draw. I work on a Surface Pro and Photoshop. So I start with a blank canvas, just like any other artist would, and I start drawing. I sketch them, and then I kind of refine them, and then I paint over them on the top layer. But I'm also a graphic designer, so I do the font work, and then like on this one, you can see it's got some like following that's not characters. So yes, I do design the books in full. Yes.
Can I be nosy about the horror novel? Because you said you write romance, you've done fantasy, really cool, but then there's that horror pivot thing. Do you enjoy horror, or was it you wanted to try something new?
My goal is actually to write and illustrate in every genre. So
Okay.
I want to do a book in every single genre. I've got a sci-fi western that I really want to write. That one will probably be out here in the next year or two. And then I also have like a legal, like Ocean's 8 meets Men in Black, but no aliens. So I mean, I definitely got like ideas in every genre, but they haven't been written yet. They are to be determined. Yes.
What genre do you prefer to read?
I like, it's either nonfiction, literary fiction, or fantasy, but I lean towards literary fiction. Yes.
You said you spent your summers down here? Or-
Spring break, fall break, or summer, yeah.
So when I'm originally from New York, but my family's from here, and when I spent my summers down here, my family always told me about the lore. Were you ever inspired by any of the actual history that happened there?
I am inspired by it, but I haven't written on it yet. And I think for me, if I were to go and write a historical novel, which will eventually happen, I want to be very thorough in my research and make sure it's done to justice for the history of the island. And right now, with the stories that I have lined up, they just aren't quite aligned with that yet. But it's in the future. It's just, I don't know, maybe 5 years or so. I don't want to write. Yes.
What genre do you think will be the hardest to write for?
It's probably going to be historical fiction, or like I love me some Jack Ryan, and like what's the other one? Jack Reacher. I love those shows, but like I'm not living in that world. Like I'm in the fantasy realm, So when it comes down to like laws and rules and like what states are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, that was probably going to take the most research between historical fiction and like legal thrillers. But I really like to do it. I think it'd be fun. Yes.
It sounds like you have a lot of projects going on at one time. Do you find yourself writing full stories simultaneously? Or do you think that you kind of ideate about a couple of things but focus on one at a time?
It kind of varies. I think if something really grabs me, I'll sit down and finish one book. But I mean, as of right now, I've got like 5 different things going. And it's just a matter of like, it gives me a way to sit down and make progress every single day, whether it's on a nonfiction or on a romance or on the horror. You know, I'm working on something every day. But then once I get to a certain point in the story, I really do have to commit and then kind of focus all of my energy on that one.
Do you have a favorite author? I don't remember what you said.
Oh, I have a lot of favorite books, but I don't know if I have a favorite author. I really did enjoy Red Rising by Pierce Brown. If any of you have read that one, that's sci-fi. And then Lamb by Christopher Moore is one of my all-time favorite books. It's hilarious. It's about Jesus and his best friend, and his best friend does all the sinning for him. And it's humorous. It's fantastic. But favorite books, less than authors. Any other questions?
I have to ask what it's like to be your age, to be in this town. Because there are so many, I mean, you look around this room, okay, and, you know, there are young people here, but are you part of a community of young people, young writers?
It's a good question, because it's been hard. I actually did start a writing group for a while. This past year I had some like health struggles, and I got my first home, which is incredible, and I'm really thankful for that. But I kind of lost touch with them from that. But it's really a matter of like pulling the young writers out of the woodwork, because they're here. A lot of them do live, you know, closer to Wildlight, but they're hard to find. I am part of the Amelia Island Writers, so I meet with them sometimes. But I mean, I'd be lying if I said it was easy to find a community around here. I hope that that's something like going forward. I'm a board member with the Amelia Island Book Festival, so I'm hoping to kind of, try to bring the young people out and get them more involved with the community. Yes.
What was the experience of self-publishing like?
I had fun with it. So it's hard because like for me, I never saw myself as a self-published author. I always knew the rules for traditional publishing. I was more geared towards that. I think there's a lot of credibility in that. So, you know, to be like, here, just go crazy. You don't have any rules, you know, you do all the work by yourself. It's a very big change. So for those of you who don't know what goes into it, traditional publishers, they handle everything for you. They'll do your social media most of the times, and then they'll do your book cover, they'll do your formatting, they'll do your editing. With self-publishing, you have to do all of it. You start with nothing, and I literally build each file for the interior, the cover, you know, any art is all done by me. So you really have to be your everything. And I was really, really lucky and blessed to have studied all of that for so long. I remember being like, I don't know, 15, doing driver's ed, trying to format my manuscript on my Word document when I was supposed to be doing something else. So I was really, really already like neck deep in how do you make the files, how do you do the advertising, like how do you, think of different ways, because you're not going to be in bookstores. Like I'm not in Barnes & Noble. You can order my books from Barnes & Noble, but you can't go buy them in the store. So it's a matter of, there's a lot of challenges. Like you just have to think, and I mean, I'm creative, so I have that ability to think outside the box and come up with like different ways. Like I have magnets in my books that I'll put on my car, so when I'm riding around, people will see it. And I just got a sticker that says, I write books, scan the QR code to read them, and then I'm gonna have QR code on the car. So, I mean, if you're stuck in traffic and you got nothing to do, or I would do it. So, it's kind of like, there's a lot of roadblocks, and it's very, very difficult, and it's like a new challenge every single day. But I don't regret it. I mean, I would be very sad if I weren't published, so that's why I'm published now. Yes.
Have you thought about turning any of your maybe short stories or even your novels into plays to be produced? Because we have 3 theaters, local theaters going here, and they're always looking for new talent, okay? And people here do write plays, so that may be another avenue for you.
That's a really good idea. I've never thought about that, actually. I dabbled in script writing to like see how it's done, but I've never really taken any of them seriously enough to like fully adapt them. But I don't know, maybe the giant and the hardware store will be coming to a theater near you. Yes.
Now, I don't have published, whatever, but a friend in business, do you need an editor to help you to read what you're doing to make sure you're on the right track, or it's readable, or whatever it's supposed, I don't know what an editor does.
Yes.
It sort of reads you.
Yes, it is very valuable to use
So
an
you
editor.
have somebody that in your self-publishing world
I do.
that reads up your scripts, or you can read theirs or something like that.
Yeah, and like writer groups are really great for that too, because you can kind of sit down with somebody and be like, I'm gonna help you out this way, kind of exchange services and so on. Yes.
You were saying that some of your goals are around writing in different areas and genres. When you go to write, do you have other goals in mind, kind of for your readers for each of your books, either collectively or individually? I'll plug Inheriting Armageddon right now because I just started it. I'm on page 30 and I don't read that fast, to be honest. But I'm on page 30 in like 1.5 days. I also read 5 books at a time, not helpful. So I'm a little bit all over the place like that, but I have gotten through 30 pages in 3 days, which is big for me. So I'm finding it really accessible, and I'm hooked. I wasn't sure what to expect, so I'm excited about that. But I'm just wondering, like, what is your goal, right, for the reader when you head into writing a book? Is it to capture them in 30 pages, or are there other things that you kind of think through when you get started?
Well, thank you for reading my book. Oh my gosh, that's very sweet. It kind of varies. And again, from like the traditional background, the goal is to hook the reader really in the first like 10 pages.
Yeah.
And Inheriting Armageddon specifically is a little bit slower, and I think that's why I struggled with the traditional side with that one. But I'm so glad to hear you're hooked. I think primarily for me, when it comes to writing, I have to be excited about the story first in order to make sure that that passion, translates into what you guys are reading. I don't know, I just like telling stories. I do like, one of the things that I really try to represent in my books is like mental health and mental illness. And I realized this morning that I write very messy characters. Rose Hyde and Russ has some very, very interesting characters in it. But I don't know, I think it's just kind of, when I sit down, it's the story wants to be told, and I let the story tell itself how it demands to be told, more or less. Because Inheriting Armageddon really kind of like, I didn't know exactly where I was going with that first book. Like, I know the rest of the series really well. I think it gets exponentially more interesting. But that first book, I sat down and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I wrote it, and then it started taking these turns, like, this is where we're gonna go. And then I said, at the end of it, that makes a lot of sense, and that's what the story needed. So I have learned that if I try to control the story too much, it doesn't go well.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Thank you so
Very
much.
appreciate it.
I do have books for sale if anyone wants them.